We're discussing the katon, number 4 on page LXIV. It has the shape of a colon. It always sits above a word. Katon means small.
We're talking about doctor. You can't see the shape of a colon. She'll think it's the shape of a colon.
It is, so he defines it as a king of modesty. It's something that is a small king. So it has a pause after it. It tells you that the phrase is ended there. And he says that it works its way from below upwards or from up to below. Because it's two dots that are one placed on top of the other, he will often find emphasis in the fact that that there is something higher or something lower, and that concept might appear in the word that it's defining. And he will also sometimes refer to the fact that this is a double marking, that it's two dots, not just one. And again, sometimes he will mention that when he assigns an interpretation to a katon. We're going to continue with number 7, et nachta. Et nachta gathers from a base that is stable and goes up to a straight line above it. It is sort of biblical text is usually divided into two parts of a sentence with a logical semicolon in the middle. There is sometimes a poetic balance between the first half and the second half, and et nachta is that dividing marker that tells us that we've got to the end of our first section, and then the word after it starts the second section. Lanuach means to rest, so this is a resting point. This is a stop in the middle.
Right.
This is a low king. Again, this is something that we pause afterwards, and it is a king of effects and conclusions. It tells us that something has finished itself. He is on top of the development, supervising causes and results, and from his position placed on an observation post. So we have this little mark that's coming on top of a stable base. So sometimes we're seeing things that are going to develop from a viewpoint of sitting on top of the et nachta. The et nachta, that word that it is defining, is going to give us a view to what might happen afterwards in the second half of the sentence or in the next direct word. The author will usually go word to word rather than phrase to phrase, sentence to sentence, although sometimes he will make more macro comments. He will usually try to define a flow from one word to the direct next word before it or after it.
In the shoresh of et nachta and munach, their shoreshim are common. Is there a commonality between the notes?
Between what?
Munach and et nachta.
Munach and et nachta, right.
So do they have a commonality of purpose or in any way similarity?
Yeah, because you said that. Yeah, because it's what comes before and after.
So et nachta is always a pause to show you that you've sort of finished the first section. Munach is a little rest while you're gonna go on to something else.
So there's a
munach is stop, think about this, but we're gonna go on because this is gonna lead into something. Et nachta is we're gonna stop here. So the concept of resting is there for both of them, because with the munach you're thinking, okay, we're going to do something with this, but hold on, there's more coming. Where it's sort of it's a pause while you're still walking. Et nachta is let's stop, but we're going to keep on going because there is a connection to what's going to go on afterwards, but we got to digest this first. So it's really a different type of resting.
But there's both. But does have resting in common? So that was a good thing you picked up. Also, what I noticed is that it's nachta. In the middle is that resting place, which is going to be it's the resting place in the sentence, and it starts with an aleph and tav, and it ends with that aleph and tav in a mirror image. Isn't that interesting? The word is nachta.
Right.
It starts with aleph tav, going the right direction, aleph to tav, then that rest, Noach, and then tav aleph.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Dr. Seaman really does not comment a lot about the names of the notes per se.
Well, I'm sure he's going
He
to
doesn't.
get that.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, he left that for us.
He doesn't. Well, no, he doesn't. He doesn't define that in any of his expositions that I've seen yet.
But when you said mapach and you said from hapuch, you were just saying.
But again,
that
that's just we're trying to define what the words are. But he doesn't actually bring that out in his text anymore.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to give it for greater understanding for ourselves.
Right.
Zakef Gadol is a composite note. It's a straight line followed by a colon. It appears as a unit like that. It appears on top of a word. And remember, we had Zakef Katon, which is a munach with a katon after it. So those are two separate notes. Whereas we're going to have a Zakef Gadol, which is going to be, in Dr. Seaman's definition, two marks that are sitting on top of a word. So he's going to tell you that because you got a line and two dots, there might be a double meaning or something that is emphasized in the word. This is, again, a king. This is something that gets a pause after it. Zakef Gadol. Again, that's in Haftorah tune. We'll skip. I'll give you some Megillah tune later and some Rosh Hashanah tune later and so on. But in any case, it is a note that emphasizes a word and implies a pause after it. It who systematically prepares his action for foundations and turns with full determination to his desired objective. It is not by any means the end of a phrase. It's going to emphasize the word, but it's going to tell you that there is more that's coming after it. It never ends a concept or a phrase, and he's going to again make a great amount of interpretation of the fact that there are two parts to this shape. It is a line and a colon together. Number 9, Revi'i, is a diamond which appears on top of a word.
And Revi'i is 4 sides of a diamond, so that's perfect. The names are obviously connected. I mean, he's going into so much meaning. It's hard to believe that he wouldn't comment on the names.
He defines this as an unlimited superior king. So after we get this note, we are definitely going to pause. He says that it's independent from time and space. It can sit on its own, or it can be at the end of a phrase, but it doesn't matter. That word tends to stand alone when it has a revi under it. Does not rely on approvals from anywhere. He really gives it human characteristics.
It's its own person.
It is its own person. It makes that word stand out from anything else. Occasionally, he may require the assistance of one or more officials, so there might be one or two munachim that come before letters munach, the symbol munach that comes before it. If that is the case, the two reading marks munach are always separated with a psik, with a straight line that tells you that there is a pause in reading between the first munach and the second munach to prevent interference, and they are differently pronounced. As when you have munach revi, the first munach and the second munach have in fact a different pronunciation.
Which is, I wonder, for the people that missed last week, we mentioned that it was last week's parsha, but Yigash, that we said Vayigash Yehuda, and under Yehuda was the Revi'i, and he's the fourth, and he was very much his own person. So, what we're saying that Yehuda was the fourth, he distinguished himself from the other brothers, even though he was the fourth. That fits in with what we're saying.
Absolutely. Number 10, Kadma, which has the same shape as the Pashta, you'll notice. It's that upward curving gentle mark. It appears above a word. It means first or kodem. That's something that happens prior.
It's always with an azla, right?
So when it's defined as a kadma, it always leads into an azla. This is something that appears above a word, and the phrase together, kadma ve'azla. There you had some Megillah Esther there. That note is going to emphasize whatever phrase it's going on top of. So he defines it as an active upper banner that specializes in preparations for its effect or azla. Kadma always comes together with azla, and it's going to tell you that this phrase together is something that needs to be noticed. Kadma reserves advanced timing to be efficient for his task. I'm not quite sure exactly what he's referring to, other than the fact that it is a little bit of a hurrying to get into the next word. It really makes you go into the next word almost immediately. So we get to azla, which is the ending of that phrase, and again, it's a banner. It makes whatever the kadma is going to happen even more emphasized, and it brings the two things together. It can sometimes appear by itself. It is, again, the mirror image of the kadma. It appears on top of the word. When it appears by itself, when you just have that mark itself, it gets a different name. It's called azla geresh. And if you'll notice, it has a shape that seems to be pointing back to what happened before. It's going to be a great emphasis. Azla geresh. So you're going to notice this word quite emphatically, and it's going to loudly refer to what's coming back before it, because it has that backward sloping shape, and it's collecting something that has happened before it. Gershayim.
Sorry, just before we go on. So the mark pashta and the mark kadma
both have the same shape and both appear in the same place, and you only know which one it is based on the phrase that it's in. If it has an azla after it, it's a kadma v'azla. If it has anything else after it, it's a pashta.
Okay.
So it can be pashta mapach pashta, pashta zakef katon, pashta katon. So it will always have something else after it.
So it's a unique
other than
grouping.
So the grouping kadma v'azla goes together.
Is a unique grouping that every other time the beginning mark is called a pashta.
Right.
And the azla, when it is not in that grouping, is an azla girish.
So azil means to go. Geresh means to, I guess, to chase away something, to kick out something. And gershayim, things that chase things away, plural, from geresh. It looks like the azla geresh twice.
That's like the form is plural.
So gershayim is a composed trumpet where both partners adhere to one another by parallel action to add might and impetus for their position and decisions. So again, this is going to be something that emphasizes the word that it's appearing on. You're going to linger on the word a little bit, and again, he's going to define it as a double mark. And
Gerish must mean, aside from the Garish, because like in the Zota Bracha, Mineged, Gerish Yirach, like there, what's Gerish Yirachim there? Is it also the kicker of month or of the moon? Or? I think Gerish is one of those words that has more than one meaning.
I'm sure it does. I will look that up.
Gerish.
Pazer, number 14. I'm just wondering if, for the sake of getting into some sentences, we'll go through maybe one more note, and we'll conclude this section next week. I just want to get into at least one or two sentences on this tape, so that we'll have people able to conceptualize what really is happening here. Pazer, to spread out, is a high trumpet. Again, this is a straight line with a connected backwards curve, comes to a point at the bottom and is open wide at the top, sits on top of a word. So he's noticing that it's a high trumpet. It's something that is going to definitely make that word stand out. And it has an insignificant base. It comes down to a point, so capable of developing a minor event into large ramifications of striking proportions. So you're going to start with a very flimsy base, and you're going to get to something very big.
So It almost looks like a tuning fork, or it looks like an antler, or it looks like a tzadik sofi, a printed tzadik sofi, like Eretz. You know what I mean?
This is always from the point of view
You know what I mean?
from down looking up. Is it
Yes.
sitting
So
on
whatever
top of
seems
the
to be
letter?
on, that's always on top of the
Looks
word.
like antlers.
So we're going to come back to finish off this section in next week's tape. We're going to now go to the section on Noach. So each of the chapters has a blue divider. So we're after the blue divider for Parshat Noach. We're going to read page 1 in Parshat Noach, and now we're going to see how he applies these concepts now that we've got some of the notes under our belt.
Sorry, Jeff, one remaining question. When I look at the Et Nachta, and then I look at the Pazer,
So there is a difference between them. Et Nachta is a balanced, stable structure. It has it has a curve that in its very middle pointing up, you have this line. So you have a solid base with something pointing up or something going up that's being focused from that very solid, stable base. Pazer has a straight line with a curve coming out of the side. It's not balanced.
It's shaky.
It's coming on a point and then leading both directly up from there, but also getting wider ramifications that are coming out of it. So there might be a straight line up from it, or there might be much more that it's spreading out and telling you. So it's not a mirror image. It's something that has a little bit of a different shape that again is going to tell you something different. So we're on page 1 of the Noach section, and just briefly, when we look at the organization of a page, he'll tell you Noach, which is Breshit, Parsha Vav, Breshit, the 6th chapter, and then you'll see Tet, that it's sentence number 9.
He also starts new page numbers for every parsha. Like
Every
one,
parsha will be page numbered by itself,
as opposed to
and
one,
linearly down
86.
He'll go through the sentence as it appears in Torah. He will give each one of those phrase groups a strict definition, and then he will number each of those, and below it he will comment on each of those. The reason I call it phrase groups, if you'll notice when you look at 10, Et HaElokim, these are 2 words, but there's only one reading mark under it. So that's why he phrases them together. So just that's the nusach, that's the formulation that he's going to use from here on, just so that we understand why he's divided things up. So we look at the word Ele. Under the first note, we'll notice that there's Armapach, which is that less than sign. So again, we're reading Hebrew, so it's collecting something before and focusing it into something going on. So we're going to look underneath of the comment number 1, those, Ele, so he gives it a direct translation. And the reason that if you read down, sorry, I'm just going to skip back up to the top, those events of Noach, a man, a just, complete he was in the generations. If you read it like that, it makes no sense. And the reason it makes no sense is he's going to tell you that there is a much longer story being told here. Each one of these words, together with its mark, is telling an entire story in and of itself. And you don't just read one word then the next. You read the note with its mark, you understand that, and then it's going to tell you a story that flows out of that. And then when you read those all together, then it's going to make sense. So number 1, those happenings which will be stressed ahead will mark an end to a previous epoch. So we're saying that Noach is the one who's going to take humanity out of the flood. It's going to end the era of man that's been from creation up until him. So it's going to end the previous epoch of the world and of man. All developments of the past will merge to an abrupt end. And here he makes a comment on the shape of the note. Beforehand we had 10 generations, and all of that is going to be rolled into this one man and his family who is going to continue humanity from there on in. We're going to funnel everybody into the point, which is Noach, and things are going to have to go on from there. and he's going to say that it's going to merge into an abrupt end as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. Now you're beginning to get the sense of what this Perush is about. He will sometimes add comments. So he says, NB, the Zohar says, Ele pasalat harishonim. Whenever you see the word Ele, it's going to tell you that everything that happened before it has been canceled by what's going to happen after it. So Noah cancels Adam and the generations after him. Abraham cancels Noah. Yitzchak Yitzchak cancels Yishmael. Yaakov cancels Esav. So we're going to see that.
Or supersedes maybe.
No, the Midrash and the Zohar both say that they specifically cancel out. Eile Toldot Yitzchak tells you that doesn't matter who Yishmael was. He doesn't continue history. Yitzchak continues history.
But Eile, is Eile referring to what went before or what's coming?
Eile tells you that whatever happened before is canceled out by whatever's going to come after. So Noah cancels out all the generations before him because it starts with the phrase Eile. So this is a Zohar and I believe a Midrash. In contrast to Ve'ele, when you have the phrase Ve'ele, it's going to not only he says Mosif al ha'inyan harishon. It's going to add to whatever was going to before. So when you see the phrase Ve'ele, it's going to tell you that not only is this person accomplishing something or these events important, but they are intimately connected to what is before, and they are going to make more of them. So again, sometimes we'll get macro comments like that. So the events, 2, Toldot. This is an interesting definition of the word Toldot. Leholid means to give birth to, literally, so the things that they give birth to, but it can also mean the events that happen, and he chooses that way of defining the word. The events which will follow will contribute to a new start of the world with a different facet. So you notice here that this has a zakef, or a munach. They both look the same. So it's got that straight line, which is a wall, and then it goes on to expand from there in a very formal sense. So the word Toldot, the events, he's going to say, is that you're going to start a new world. You're going to have nothing before it, as if all of creation before it is going to end, and then you're going to go on from there. So the events, the Toldot, tell us a different story. Tell us again. The world's going to end, and it's going to go on from here. And we see that in the shape of the zakef. We see that in the shape of the note that is underneath the word Toldot. So we're going to start a new world with a different facet, which will vary essentially from the previous one, as denoted by the shape of the reading mark. So it's going to negate the things that are before it. We've got that wall with things continuing afterwards, so all the things that happened before are not relevant anymore, and we're going to go on from here. Noach has the katon, has those. It's a little bit blurred in my copy, but it's those that colon. It's the 2 dots that are on top of the word Noach. Even though the word Noach is just his name, he's defining it as of Noach. And grammatically, both of those can be correct. We go to number 3. The transformation will be connected with the work and the personality of Noach. So again, Toldot is leading into Noach because it's a zakef katon. It's a phrase that you have to read together. So this new world that's going to be created that's separate from what's behind is going to have the work and the personality of Noach in it. So that's how the zakef katon defines both the words Toldot and Noach. It draws the two of them together, and it tells you that Noach, the word means to ease, to make things easier, which is his name, is has a katon on it, on top of it, which is 2 dots, and he's going to tell you this is a bipartite shape of a reading mark. It's got 2 dots, and therefore it's going to tell you that there are 2 things that are going on. This is both something that is going to be Noach's hard work, and it's also going to be an easier world that's going to be created afterwards. You see the world before and the world afterwards in the double shape of the note,
And
in the fact that it's got 2 dots.
And the doubling of the actual word Noah.
He will tell us that afterwards. We're going to number 4, Noach. So you'll notice that even though before the word Noach means of Noach, now the word Noach just simply means his name, Noach. It has a rivi'i, it has that diamond shape on top of it. So remember that this is something that is going to stand all by itself. So Noach
He was his own man, right?
was not only an insignium of his time by chance, but he reached his position in life by hard effort. He was a self-made man. He is literally somebody who stands by himself. That's why he gets the Revi'i on top of his name, as pointed out by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So the Revi'i is going to tell us that Noach, again, stood alone, could do his own thing, was able to be independent. And if we read the Midrashim, that's part of Noach's character flaw as well, that he didn't draw people in with him. He was too independent, too standoffish. So again, having a Revi'i on Noach tells us so much about his characteristics that we just don't see from the fact that we've just said his name.
Can you, by the way, since this is your domain, Alvin.
Yes, comments are freely encouraged at this point.
No, but why? Someone who's just starting to learn Hebrew, I'm sure people would say Nocha. Is there any other letter that's like that when you put a patach under it?
Hey. So if you get a hey at the end of the word, it's not Eloah, it's...
Sometimes it's Eloha. Okay, that wasn't a good example. Eloha, sometimes it is. That would be like calling it Nocha. So there is a word Eloha.
So that word...
Don't do that word. Do another word. Okay. Neshama.
But there's no other word that has a patach under at the end of it. No, so that's the other word that has this.
No, but there's pronounced. But I'm saying
the way. Wait.
Yeah.
So the way that word is pronounced is as if there are 2-letter heys at the end of the word, and the patach is on the first of the letter hey. So if you're going to not pronounce one of God's names, it would be properly pronounced Eloach. The hey, the first hey, has a patach under it, and the second one, because you're not going to say another hey after it, you're going to say a kuf there. So it's Elohak is the way of pronouncing. So Eloka, but I'm saying Eloka is not a pronounced is not the right way to do it. So the ach is like an aleph or an ayin with a patach under it, followed by the chet. So the aleph is implied.
So in Noach there's an aleph implied?
So in any word with a chet at the end of the word with a patach under it, there's an implied aleph there. Minchat Shai goes over this in detail. And maybe in a future time we'll do that, but it's not really relevant to the translation here. But it's a pronunciation guide.
Can I ask about the 2 characteristics of Noah from the 2 different reading marks?
So the
second one is this
emphasizes. I don't want to confuse the people. So you're talking about the first Noach, number 3, or the second Noach, number 4? Or the difference between them?
The difference between them, and also in 3, we had mentioned that the mark that is on top of the nun, the bipartite mark, indicates either an emphasizing or a rippling up, right? Am I correct in that?
So again, all of the elements or features that a note that a reading mark might imply are not always there in a word. He will
you're
choose
not right.
one characteristic or two characteristics, or even all of the characteristics that a reading mark implies, and tell you which one is relevant to that particular word. And what he's saying here is, with a Zakef Katon, number one, it's got to complete what the Zakef did. So it's got to go through with Toldot, and it's got to tell you how it's going to complete that phrase. And the second thing that it's got to do is, because it's got that two-parted shape, it's going to tell you that there's a world before and there's a world after. There's two things that are happening here. And he's also drawing in the meaning of the actual name Noach, which means ease, and telling you that before the world was hard and difficult, and after Noach the world is going to be easier. So it's got a before and afterwards because